So I've built and scaled 2 companies to the point where it generates over $2,000 every single day. And the key reason that I was able to get to this point was purely because of the habits that I had. When I was first starting out, I had terrible habits. I had no routine, nothing. And I would end up, just lounging around, vegetating, doing nothing, watching Netflix, eating terrible foods, not working on the business, trying to do it, but not succeeding. And the reason that I didn't have any business success when I started, the reason that I couldn't, even book a meeting, even sign a client in the first year of business was purely because of the habits that I had. And the biggest shift that I made in going from zero to over $50,000 per month are the habits that I had, right? It turned me from a terrible state to the point where the company was generating over $50,000 every single month. I'm running a team of around 8 people right now. Happy clients, great results, and everything is just going so much better. So even though we're not at, let's say, the $1 million, $5 million, $10 million per month, what I want to do is at least share the lessons that you can take in going from zero, just starting out, you may be struggling with any of these things, to the point where you're running a company, generating nearly 7 figures every single month, and just have the highest likelihood of success in anything that you do. So one of the most impactful habits that I've ever done in my life is, for the past 3 years, turning my phone on airplane mode for the first 12 hours of the day. So I first heard of this from a guy named Sam Ovens. Now, Sam at the time was doing around $50 million per year in his business, and he used to preach about never using your phone, right? And what he would do is at night, he would turn his phone on airplane mode. Firstly, the guy had no apps on his phone. The phone was completely black. There were like 4 apps, like Messenger, they're like the default things. And the guy was just religious about never using his phone. And because of this, it didn't have like Instagram, TikTok, all these things just messing up your brain. And he was able to get such massive outcomes for his business because he could just focus for like 12 hours on end because he wasn't, frazzled with all this stuff coming at him from his phone. So his screen time would be like 15 minutes per day. Like, it is crazy. So he would preach about never using a phone, about removing distractions, about removing, short-term dopamine that really just messes up your focus. So at the time that I heard this, I was in high school. I was probably in like grade 11 and I didn't have a business, but I would watch this business content and, I would try and apply it. So he would talk about focus, and what I would do is I would apply those lessons of focus into my schoolwork. So when most people, they try to study, they would sit down, they'd put their phone next to them, it would probably be still on loud, it'd be buzzing and all of this. I'd have the laptop, they'd have the textbooks, all of that. And then every 5 minutes, I'd just get distracted. Like, it was so pointless. And I used to do the exact same when I started. But once I heard these lessons, the first thing that I used to do is, when it was, time to study for exams, the night before, I would put my phone on airplane mode and I wouldn't let it, I wouldn't turn it off airplane mode until at least 1 p.m. the next day. So for that entire period of me sleeping and then, that first session in the morning from till like, 1 p.m., it was pure focus. I had no distractions. I had no WhatsApp messages, no Instagram, no replying to anything. And I would just work with monk-like focus for that entire period. So what would happen in high school was 1 hour of my studying, because I had such focus, would be 10 times more effective than any other person. So for example, my friends would be studying, let's say, all night for 10 hours. I would study for like 1 to 2 hours, but get the same result or even better result because I put that focus work. I had no distractions. I would start, right? I would read the textbook, I would do the stuff, but then I wouldn't stop, right? I would just go for like 1, 2, 3 hours straight because I had that focus. And because of that, it allowed me to progress rapidly, study very little, and end up using that time to work on the business. And I've kept using this habit to this day where when I have specific tasks to do in the business, I still don't check my phone until 1 p.m. And it allows me to just get through all the deep work that I need to do, all the key tasks, whether it's creating content, building systems, helping out team members. I do it first thing in the morning when my mind is still focused because I don't have 1,000 Slack messages, 1,000 Instagram messages, WhatsApp, all of it happening at once. Now the next lesson goes on to this and it's called communication clearance. So the way that I first heard this was when I would do these deep work blocks with no phone, I would work the entire period till like 1 p.m. and then I would check my phone. And I immediately after I picked the phone up, I'd walk to my room, I'd go in there, take the phone out the cupboard and then turn it off airplane mode. And all I would see was just like notifications, all these things just coming up. Whether it's team, whether it's, some people I'm talking to, whatever. It would all just come at once. But the thing is, I wanted to get back to work, but I know I just had to clear this stuff out. But what would happen was I would see all these notifications and it would be like so overwhelming. And what happened was I would answer some, like the easy to answer stuff. But then like, I don't know, someone would be like angry with me, whatever. And I would just like ignore it and then just go back to the work. But then what would happen was I would turn the phone back on airplane mode, put it in the cupboard, go back to the desk, start doing work, but then I'd still think about the thing. And thinking about the thing would stop me from doing more of the work. So I'm trying to do the work, but I'm thinking about the things. Whether it's, I don't know, I did something, I didn't reply in like 12 hours, some girl's angry, whatever it might be. It would just stay on my mind because, it's unanswered. So I'd have, let's say, 7 unread chats on WhatsApp, 3 unread chats on Instagram, and it would just sit there. And it got to the point where it actually bothered me. So what I started doing, and I called the habit communication clearance, was whenever I see a message, if I'm on my phone, I reply instantly, right? And you can ask anyone that knows me, if I'm not on my phone, I will just not reply. My phone will be on airplane mode. But if I am, like, I will literally reply instantly. You know when like the notification comes down on the phone and you just like swipe down and reply like that? I do that. So it's quick. So every single time that I check my phone or email or Slack or anything, I make sure to clear everything. And what happens is it frees your attention so that you can focus on the next task. Or else there's a term that refers to something where one task bleeds into the next one. And that's what happens when you check your phone or check Slack or check distractions. It bleeds into the next task and it takes some of your energy. The third and one of the most foundational habits that I adopted very early on when I was around 16 was only educational consumption. Now, what this meant was, let's say, I had school, it was a Wednesday, I woke up and I'm getting ready for school. So I'm eating breakfast, I'm getting changed, I'm packing all my books together. What most people do is they would like put on some weird YouTube video, or they would listen to music and have these earphones in, these headphones on while they're getting dressed, which is, perfectly normal. But what I would do as like the nerd that I was at the time, I would put on motivational, podcasts, motivational videos while I was getting ready for school. And it was literally like the corniest stuff that you could watch, like, oh, if you think it, if you believe it, you'll get it, if you work hard, like literally like that. And what happened was, even though, it seemed very like weird or very corny at the time, it actually ended up brainwashing me to a degree where I actually became so delusional in the fact that I could do genuinely anything. Like, this was probably one of the biggest hacks that I had. So I would listen to this motivational material while I was getting ready for school, even in the car. There was one time I saved up all my money to get AirPods, so that when I was in the car, when I was walking to school, I would just listen to the stuff. So educational videos, podcasts, over time it evolved to like books. So I listened to self-development books, whatever, just to have the feeling that I was doing something good. I didn't even have a business. I didn't even know what I was going to be doing, but it just made me feel like I was doing something productive. I felt like one of those like entrepreneur morning routine guys. So I would do that and it worked, right? Over time, I just accumulated this knowledge of, psychology, of foundational business things, of mindset, of positive thinking. All of this just stacked over time from the time where I was like 16, 17 years old to now where I'm running the business. So one of the best habits you can adopt is while you're doing, basic tasks, what I call admin tasks. Let's say cooking food, let's say packing the dishwasher, even if you're staying at home with your parents, while you have to like take out the trash, do anything, dishes. This is when I would listen to the educational material. I'd be like, this is so annoying. I don't want to do dishes. I hate this, but I'm going to listen to this podcast. So it's going to be semi-useful, right? And that's the approach that I took. So now, even when I'm, in the Uber to gym, I will still listen to this stuff. I will still listen to podcasts. I'll still listen to audiobooks. So I was on a run this morning and the whole time I had this audiobook playing. So this is another habit that I'd highly recommend if you are interested in self-development, getting better, starting a business, even scaling your current business. It's just using downtime to listen to educational material and educate yourself while you probably wouldn't be doing anything else. Now, the fourth habit is fasting. So I first got into fasting when I was watching the entrepreneur Sam Ovens type videos when I was around 16, 17 in high school. And the same ideas that I took with, focusing on one thing, putting distractions away, I took with the fasting. And the idea behind this, what I saw in another YouTube video, was that when you're eating food, your body's digesting. And because you're digesting, you have less energy for your brain to put into other things. And what it does is it diminishes your focus because, like I said, all the energy is going into other places. So what I would do is from waking up till around 1 p.m. while I was in the deep work, while I had no distractions, I would also eat no food. And the first time I realized how powerful this was when I was in, from primary school to high school, the entire time before I was 16, I would stay with my family and they would have, a massive breakfast of just straight carbs. It'd be like cornflakes in milk and then they'd have like juice on the side. Like, that's actually crazy. So it'd literally just be like sugar in carbs with sugar. Like, it's just terrible. So I remember one day where I literally had an exam. I had a maths exam in 2 hours, one of the most important exams in my high school career. And what happened was I had breakfast, again, the just complete sugar fest. And in the car, I was tired. I was like, I just woke up, ate breakfast, and now I'm tired again. I fell asleep in the car on the way to school because I had this big ass carb crash. And then it's like, okay, now I'll write my exam. I'm like, bro, the thing is, it really matters. So when I stopped doing this during exams, I started fasting. And I would even write the exams fast. And what happened was I had so much focus, both when I was studying before, but also during the actual test, that I can put into it. So all the effort that I had was just let's say, put in one thing, and it was just focus. And I still do this to this day, where I only eat my first meal at 1 p.m. And it's one of the most effective things that I can do, along with the focus, along with the no distraction. And the fifth habit that I implemented to get the business to 50K per month and just start the entrepreneurial journey in the first place is just dopamine mitigation. Now, what this looked like, again, in these YouTube videos, I would learn from these mentors who really preached about removing dopamine. So these were the guys, so I'd be watching these videos and I would see like they would remove Instagram, TikTok, their phone would be off on airplane mode, completely away all day. But then they would also, on their computers, they would have no YouTube, couldn't even access it, no Netflix, nothing, none of that. And they would just starve their mind of like stimulation of dopamine. They wouldn't eat food, they'd fast till the evening, they wouldn't eat sugary stuff, so it wouldn't spike your whatever. So they would do all these things to reduce the amount of stimulation that they get, so that the actual work that they did was so much more appealing to them. Because if you think about it, the reason that most people don't do work is because they have things that are more appealing than the work. So let's say you have a PlayStation or Netflix on one side of the room and your laptop to do some cold emailing on the other. It's like, obviously this is going to be more appealing, so you're less likely to do the work. So their philosophy was remove everything else and you'll just work by default. So I would do this, again, starting in high school, but all the way up until now, where I would remove everything, right? It is at the point where I completely delete Instagram. Every single person I knew had it, but I was the only one who just deleted it. Didn't have TikTok, didn't have Facebook, didn't have Snapchat, none of that. And all I had was like the messaging tool. And what I also did was, on my phone, I'd keep it away, keep it on airplane mode, but I would delete everything. I didn't have any apps. So even if someone wanted to message me, I wouldn't see it firstly because my phone would be in another room. Also, there's like nothing on there. So it's just, they can just message me max, like that's it. And also on my laptop, I would have literal Chrome extension that would block Netflix, it would block YouTube, it would block any social media. Like it is that bad. But what happened was I got so bored that I just worked all day. There were no distractions. Imagine one day you were just shipped to like another location, like a place without Wi-Fi, a place without anything. No phone, no electricity, nothing. At first it'd be like, okay, this is the worst thing ever. But then you would adapt, right? You'd get used to it. You'd be like, okay, I'm gonna just go, I don't know, farm or something, or fetch some water. Like at first it's bad, but then you get used to it. So in the same way that you remove stimulation, you remove dopamine, what happens is work becomes the most appealing thing in your life. And when that happens, every single day, all you think about is work. And if that's the case, you're just gonna work all day. And if that's the case, all you're gonna think about is work. And if that's the case, you're just gonna make massive amounts of progress. So one of the competitive advantages that I had, and that most of my mentors had, was that they didn't even have distraction. Like they didn't have the capacity for distraction because they just removed it completely. And because of that, they were able to progress so fast and get a ton done. So those are the habits that I use to go from 0 to 50K per month. And if you want more videos like these, subscribe for more, and I will see you in the next one.